One thing I always say is work smarter, not harder. If you aren't using the Solo app, then you may be working harder. So let's change that. Download the app, link your accounts where you can manage your income, track your expenses, and project your taxes. Not only that, but you can plan by optimizing your time, make more, and even guarantee your daily pay with guaranteed earnings. Download Solo and begin to work smarter, not harder today. Link is in the description. All right, let's get back to it. Let's talk about what happens if you're driving and then all of a sudden Uber and Lyft lock you out of driving mid-shift without warning. That to me sounds like you're an employee. You're not an independent contractor at this point. And that's exactly what's happening in New York City. And there's shots fired between Uber and Lyft. I've highlighted this on X a couple of times, the way that they've been sending emails back and forth to their drivers, blaming one over the other. So it's getting a little crazy out there. But yeah, what's going on, Serge?
Man, I mean, you know, look, man, they did this in 2019 when the TLC passed the minimum wage laws in New York, right? You had to have, you had to grab a shift, right, and to be able to log on. But I mean, look, I talk to Uber almost weekly. I am in touch with them about this subject, and I'm getting information. Obviously, they're feeding me what they want me to say, but you know, I looked into it, obviously, listen to all sides of the story. First of all, the amount of new drivers that they put on the platform, especially with this latest EV push through their mayor's programs, right? You know, remember we talked about that, the mayor saying, oh, all cars in New York City are going to be EVs. I'm like, you said bullshit to it, obviously. It's like it's not going to happen.
And I said they're going to continue pushing it back and continuing.
Yeah, well, no, it's not going to happen. But what happened is that it increased, you know, a lot of the driver count, the head count, because in New York City, there's a TLC. TLC is Taxi Limousine Commission. They set the rates. They put minimum wage laws. In New York City, drivers also do get paid for idle time, Chris. Okay. And what has happened is that, well, Uber and Lyft are not dummies, right? I mean, they don't want to pay drivers because they're sitting in their car watching Show Me the Money. You know what I'm saying? So what do they do? What they do now, they boot you off. They go like, oh, you can't log on, sir, until until demand picks up. And a lot of people mid-shift without warning, right? Without warning, are getting, you know, logged out, and they cannot log back in. That's a huge problem. And there's actually, you know, so as you correctly stated, Uber and Lyft are throwing the ball back and forth to each other. Lyft goes, yeah, Uber is trying to change the laws to hurt us more. And Uber goes, we're doing fine. It's because of you that we have to log off to our drivers because your utilization rate sucks. Mm-hmm. So the TLC, by the way, set up a utilization rate. Utilization rate, for you people who don't know our lingo, is P2 and P3. So that's active hour, okay, or utilized hour, or booked hour, or whatever you guys want to call it. All this new stuff. They set a 53% number for utilization rate. Well, Uber owns 75+% of the market in New York City, and their drivers are fine. But then Lyft drivers, because it's a combined utilization rate, Uber and Lyft, it's not like an individual number, right? So Lyft is not getting enough requests. That's sucking down the utilization rate down to 48, 47, 49%. Well, they have to get to 53, right, for everybody to be online at the same time. Well, if that doesn't happen, what happens? Automatically, they start logging people out to raise the utilization rate to 53%. But Lyft is saying, oh, Uber is playing games to hurt us. And Uber is saying, you guys suck. You're not getting enough trips. You know what I'm saying? And that's why our utilization is dropping too. That's why we have to log out drivers. See how it's happening here? See what's happening?
Thanks, Sabin. Appreciate that.
Thanks, Sabin. So this is what's been going on. But the drivers who committed to EVs, you know, look, New York City is a completely different animal, by the way. You know, that TLC rules there are completely different than any other city in the country. So Uber obviously doesn't want to pay for people to sit idle, and so they're logging people out mid-shift without warning. And you can't log back in. You need to schedule it. If you can get a schedule next time you're up. You know, they're called lockouts, and you know, a lot of drivers, are also blaming Uber and Lyft, saying that they allowed way too many drivers. There was a cap of 80,000, right? The rideshare drivers. There was a cap in New York City. But what Uber and Lyft did is they were pushing EVs, and they allowed thousands more, few thousand more drivers to come on board. But you had to be just driving EVs. And a lot of people went and got their license in their EVs, and they added to the numbers, obviously, to the 80,000 number. And it's summer, maybe demand is not there, and their companies are not hitting the utilization rate of 53%, and they're just not going to pay people to sit and twiddle thumb. And now the drivers are going, we're going to, strike and do this and do that. I mean, it's a tough situation. Seriously is. Whose side am I on? Obviously, I'm on the driver's side. You shouldn't. I mean, what kind of independent contractor am I if you're just not letting me go on? And I have spoken to Uber about this, and they said, look, man, it's not our fault. We have a 53% utilization rate. When we're below that, we have to create more trips for people, and that's the way that works. I mean, 53%, Chris, if you think about it, is not that high, right? And but they said, we have to put people out for us to raise our utilization rate to that level. And they said there's not much we can do. I mean, it's the TLC's fault, obviously. They don't like any regulation. And Lyft is blaming Uber, Uber is blaming Lyft, and the game goes on. But who's getting hurt? The driver. The riders are not, because when demand slows down, people are not able to get on. When demand is fully up and going, everybody is still able to get online and do what they need to do and make some money. But a few drivers were saying that they usually run a 10-hour shift for 300 to 350. Now, because of this, they're down to 170 to 200. And in New York City, you have a lot of licensing fees, a lot of different things, a lot more expensive. Cars are mostly on fleets. They're renting it. I mean, look, it's a mess. It's a mess. Uber is definitely blaming Lyft. Lyft is blaming the TLC. Both are blaming the TLC. So we'll see where it's going to go up. I mean, I don't see the resolution to this until demand comes back.
Well, here's a couple of things. Right in the article, it kind of spits it out right for you. So I like that. One of the big things is the TLC put out a certain regulation. Yeah. They should have been watching that, and it was managed pretty well for a while until it was not managed right. And so therefore you have to blame Uber on that, because as it says right there, it says Uber mismanaged hiring by allowing a surplus of drivers onto the platform, which you said with the EV situation, and is now punishing workers for it. So it's like, oh yeah, come on, get on the platform, you'll be good to go. And then all of a sudden, what do you think is going to happen? These drivers are going to go online. The utilization rate that is set forth by the TLC now is under par. And what are they going to have to do for it? So now drivers get screwed. So in this case, honestly, I blame Uber's mismanaging of that entirely. And if you are going to look at the person to blame, or the entity to blame, this one's on Uber. And Uber should have fixed that when it comes down to it.
No, I mean, I get it. I get what you're saying, obviously. But Lyft is not doing well in New York City, right? So Lyft is also pulling Uber's numbers down, Uber's utilization numbers down. And
that's the other thing. They shouldn't. They're two separate companies. They shouldn't be bumbled in together. That's one of the other things. So if you want, that's another aspect of it. But the thing is, you have to play within the game. The other thing is, if you're not hitting your numbers, well, maybe you should have tightened up the strings before instead of loosening it and creating the problem that we see now. The other side is, I mean, when I was in Chicago doing that test with the drivers, ping requests were coming in on Uber like back to back to back to back. When it was Lyft, I mean, we were going several minutes between ping requests coming in on Lyft. So Chicago is probably very similar when it comes to New York City, when it comes to the difference between Uber and Lyft. I mean, Lyft, you know what you got to do? Take out some billboard signs in the middle of Times Square, because there's all tourists right there. And more than likely, they're the ones who are going to need rides. And guess what? Now you're going to start getting more rides. You got to do a little bit of advertising out there in order to get the passengers to, oh yeah, I forgot. Because Uber is the household name. Uber is the Kleenex of rideshare. You want to change that, you got to get people to remember, oh yeah, there's Lyft. I forgot about that. So that's one of the things that needs to happen in order to be able to bring those numbers up and hopefully get more when it comes to the demand, so they can meet those thresholds. And then, you know what? you don't have to kick off the drivers, and they can stay on the platform, and they have a little bit more reliability when it comes to them trying to make and earn the money that they need to make.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, but I mean, ultimately, driver gets hurt. That's the one that's
Yep.
getting hurt, and I feel for the drivers. I mean, it's a horrible situation, and it's expensive to drive rideshare in New York. You have so many more licenses. I mean, the rest of the country is in pure bliss when it comes to expenses, inspections and all these things you have to go through. Licensing in New York, it's expensive.
Yep. Oh,
I
yeah,
mean, you're making
it's
more
quite
money,
crazy.
but it's also spending more money to drive. But then now they're getting
Honestly,
locked out is not a good thing.
honestly, if I was in New York City, I would probably become a bike delivery driver. I mean, it's a little unsafe because you're on a bike and, it's quite crazy, but I mean, the reality is you're probably getting a little bit better of a shtick there when it comes to
Yeah.
some of these expenses and stuff. At least you're controlling it a lot more. So yeah, that's my opinion. I would have to try it out. I'm not really a fan of the delivery, but if you got to do what you got to do in order to make the money you need to make, well,
Yeah.
that's something you got to look at. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
anything
So
more to say on this particular subject?
let me just put this up because he's in New York City. I mean, New York. No separate UR. Yeah, well, yeah, that's what Uber wishes because they know they have the upper hand, and I agree exactly. Because Uber is saying that we're fine. Our utilization rate is up. We're locking people out because of Lyft sucking our
Thank you, appreciate
utilization
it.
down. Thank you, Nikki. So that's what the blame game obviously continues. I haven't spoken to Lyft about this. Uber clearly said this to me before even the article, and they said, I mean, we're doing fine. Our business is fine. Business is back to pre-pandemic level or higher, and where our UR is fine. But then ultimately they go, we're not going to pay people to sit there, and that's the TLC. Part of the TLC is that you get paid for period one as well, within that guarantee. So, we as we know, nobody pays for period one in rideshare except New York City. But anyway, so we'll see where this ends up. Hopefully. Yeah, there. Sabin says Lyft started locking down today too. Yeah, yeah, they're not going to pay anybody for doing no work. So we'll see. We'll see where it goes. It's a very difficult situation.
Yeah. And just to address some of these comments that I see, yes, I'm tan. I went to the beach a couple of times. It was 90 degrees every day for the last week. So I took the kids and we enjoyed and had fun at the beach. So hey, that's what happens. You get tan and it's enjoyable. So just to put that out there. But I would love to get a convertible and drive that around. That would be awesome. Just
Oh, you
saying.
get more time. You get more time
I
then.
know, right? And then it also helps doing a 5-mile walk every day with both my dogs. So
Yes, definitely.
get the exercise for them. So
Definitely.
All right, thanks for watching. That short little clip was from our live stream, Show Me the Money Club with Sergio and myself, Tuesdays, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. Make sure you subscribe, turn on all notifications so you'll be notified when we go live, as well as all of our awesome content. Make sure to check out this video right here, which will take you to the entire live stream, or check out this video right there. All right, drive smart, everyone.